The Galactic University of Itron Prime was known for hosting debates that challenged the very fabric of belief systems across the cosmos. Its halls echoed with the voices of warriors, scholars, and diplomats, each seeking to prove that their way of life was the ultimate truth. Today, however, the air was thick with anticipation. Word had spread that the next lecture would be about the most debated species in the galaxy. Humans. Professor Vryn, a towering figure with shimmering blue scales and 6 eyes that blinked in unison, stood at the center of the room. His reputation as a war strategist and historian drew a packed crowd. The students, representing dozens of war-torn worlds, were eager to learn how the humans had become one of the most formidable powers in the galaxy. But what Professor Vryn said next silenced the room. Humans, he began, are the only species that chooses mercy over war, and that choice is what makes them the most dangerous. A stunned silence fell over the room. The concept of mercy was alien to most of the students, who had been taught from birth that dominance and conquest were the ultimate expressions of power. For them, war was not just a necessity, it was an honor. One student, Crix, a warrior trainee from the Rhythm Dominion, couldn't contain his disbelief. His silver skin shimmered with agitation as he stood from his seat, his voice echoing through the room. Mercy? You're telling us that humans, a species that once waged wars against themselves for centuries, now avoid war because of mercy? That's impossible. They have the largest fleets, the deadliest weapons, the strength to dominate any foe. Why would they hold back? Professor Vryn's eyes gleamed with something that resembled both amusement and understanding. He had anticipated this response. With a wave of his hand, the hollow display in the center of the room activated, projecting a 3-dimensional image of Earth. Your skepticism is understandable, Vryn said, his deep voice resonating through the hall. Humans have a history of violence unmatched by any species in this galaxy. But that history is exactly why they are feared, not for their weapons, but for their choice not to use them. The hollow display shifted to show scenes of ancient Earth, wars ravaging cities, nations clashing over resources, and armies advancing with terrifying precision. The students watched, captivated, as the brutal history of humanity unfolded before them. Look at them, Vryn continued. They destroyed their own ecosystems, brought themselves to the brink of annihilation. And yet they survived. More than that, they learned. The images shifted again, showing humans advancing beyond Earth, not as conquerors, but as explorers and diplomats. Alien species shook hands with human leaders, forging alliances instead of fueling wars. Their history taught them something, Vryn said, his voice growing darker. Humans learned that war, while sometimes necessary, is a path that leads only to destruction. They discovered that peace, built through mercy and restraint, can create something far more valuable than victory: stability. Crix's eyes narrowed in suspicion. You're saying they choose peace because they're afraid of what war would cost them? That doesn't sound like strength. It sounds like hesitation. Vryn's gaze turned cold. Mercy is not hesitation, Crix. It's the ultimate expression of control. The humans could obliterate entire species if they wanted to, but they don't. They offer diplomacy first, trade agreements second, and alliances last. When those fail, then and only then do they show their true strength. With another gesture, Vryn activated a new holoscene. This time, the display showed a human fleet hovering above a contested planet. The ships, sleek and dark, bristled with weapons capable of leveling entire cities. But the humans didn't fire. Watch closely, Vryn instructed. On the display, a message was broadcast from the human flagship. It was a call for peace. The humans offered resources, trade, and technological aid, all in exchange for cooperation. The opposing force, a warlike species known as the Dralith, responded with hostility, launching a surprise attack. The students leaned in, expecting a brutal retaliation. But what happened next shocked them all. The humans defended themselves, but with precision. Their response was overwhelming, yet measured. Instead of annihilating the Dralith, they disabled their fleet, capturing their ships with minimal destruction. Why didn't they finish them? A student from the back row asked, her voice filled with confusion. They had the advantage. Why show mercy? Vryn nodded, as if expecting the question. Because humans know that war doesn't end with a battle, it ends with the aftermath. Destroying the Draelith would have destabilized the entire region, leading to more conflict. By showing mercy, the humans not only secured peace, but they gained an ally. The room was silent as the students processed the scene. For many, the idea of mercy being more powerful than war was difficult to accept. In their cultures, war was the ultimate tool of dominance. Crix, however, was not so easily convinced. That sounds like a gamble, he muttered, crossing his arms. What if their mercy backfires? What if their enemies see it as weakness and strike when the humans least expect it? Vryn's eyes gleamed with intensity. Ah, but that's where you misunderstand, Crix. Mercy is not given out of naivety. The humans understand the risks, but they also know how to prepare for them. The holo display shifted one last time, revealing a human fleet that had been pushed too far. The scene showed a planet reduced to ashes after the humans had been provoked beyond reason. The students gasped as they watched the sheer force of the human military, a devastating reminder that mercy had its limits. When humans are forced to fight, Vryn said, his voice a low rumble, they do so with a precision and ferocity that few can match. They strike swiftly, and they strike to end the conflict as quickly as possible. But even then, they are reluctant to annihilate their enemies. They fight to survive, not to conquer. Crix felt a cold chill run down his spine as he watched the destruction unfold on the holo display. The humans had wiped out entire fleets in a matter of hours, but they had stopped short of wiping out the species altogether. The lesson was clear. The humans were capable of incredible violence, but they wielded that power with restraint. And that, more than anything, made them the most dangerous species in the galaxy. Part 2. A Warrior's Doubt. Weeks later, Crix found himself aboard a Rithan scout vessel, stationed on the outskirts of human-controlled space. His thoughts were still consumed by Professor Vryn's lecture. It was one thing to hear about the humans' philosophy, but another thing entirely to see it in action. He needed proof. The Rithan Empire, always curious about the potential weaknesses of other species, had given Crix and his crew the mission to observe a human military exercise. Crix was eager to witness their supposed mercy firsthand. His skepticism hadn't faded. The scout ship slipped unnoticed into the designated observation zone, its cloaking technology masking their presence. Crix watched from the command deck as the human fleet came into view, a formidable array of warships, their sleek designs practically humming with untapped power. Crix clenched his fists as the exercise began. He expected the humans to unleash the raw force he had always associated with military power. But once again he was taken by surprise. Instead of launching an aggressive assault, the human fleet moved in perfect synchronization, focusing on defensive tactics and precision strikes. They practiced disabling simulated enemy ships, targeting critical systems to neutralize threats without resorting to complete destruction. Crix's crew exchanged confused glances. Is this what they call power? One of his officers muttered. They could destroy those ships, yet they hold back. Crix frowned. He couldn't understand it either. The humans had every advantage: superior numbers, advanced technology, and overwhelming firepower. But they chose restraint. The simulation climaxed with a surprise attack from an AI-controlled enemy fleet. Crix leaned forward, his heart racing. This was it. He would finally see the humans abandon their so-called mercy and crush their enemies. But instead, the humans responded with the same precision and discipline. They neutralized the enemy ships, disabling them rather than obliterating them. It was a calculated display of power, but it lacked the brutality Crix had been taught to expect. Just as he was about to pull his ship away, a message crackled through his communicator. Rithan vessel. A calm, authoritative voice spoke. We are aware of your presence. You are invited to dock with our command ship for further discussion. Crix's heart pounded in his chest. They had been detected. Despite the Rithan Empire's best cloaking technology, The humans had seen them. "What do we do, Commander?" one of his crew asked nervously. Crix hesitated, then steeled himself. "We accept." Part 3. Facing the Truth. The Rithan scout ship docked with the human command vessel, a massive ship bristling with weapons. Crix disembarked with a small team, his muscles tensed as they were led through the pristine corridors of the ship. The atmosphere was calm, almost peaceful, which only heightened his unease. They were brought to a briefing room, where a tall human officer awaited them. Admiral Cole greeted Crix with a firm handshake. "We've been monitoring your approach," Admiral Cole said, his voice steady. "We understand you've been observing our exercises." Crix didn't bother denying it. "Yes," he said, his voice tinged with frustration. "I wanted to see how your species wages war." Cole raised an eyebrow. "And what did you see?" Crix struggled to find the words. "I saw restraint, precision. But why? With all your power, why hold back?" Admiral Cole's expression softened. "Because we've learned the cost of war. We've learned that the strength to destroy is nothing compared to the strength to build. Mercy isn't weakness, Crix. It's wisdom." Crix felt the weight of those words settle over him. He had spent his entire life believing that power meant dominance, that war was the ultimate expression of strength. But now, for the first time, he began to understand. "And what happens when your mercy isn't enough?" Crix asked, his voice low. "What happens when your enemies push you too far?" Cole's gaze hardened. "When we are forced to fight, we do so with everything we have. But we don't fight for conquest, Crix. We fight for peace." As Crix and his team left the human command ship, his mind swirled with conflicting thoughts. The humans were not what he had expected. They were powerful, yes, but their true strength lay in their choice to wield that power with mercy. For the first time, Crix realized that perhaps true power wasn't in war, it was in the wisdom to avoid it.